Hey everybody, welcome to Game Audio Hour number 85. It's our weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas, the latest techniques, project experiences, to audio secrets. Here's where you'll find your in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. And I'm just going to keep doing that every show for eternity just to bug people. Don't you think? I kind of wonder why I say it now. You know, I get to the point where I think people are figuring out what the show's about. But, you know, got to keep tradition alive. Speaking of tradition, Alex, you've traditionally gotten your hair cut.
Yes, I have traditionally gotten your hair. Did you actually, I actually cut my hair. I cut my hair myself.
Nicely done.
It looks fine on the front where I can see it, but at the back there's like holes and patches and like craters and, it's a disaster on the back. So this view is just fine. I'm just going to say lock like this.
You need one of those Flobies. Remember what was that hair?
The Flobie. Oh, yes. Another fine contribution of human engineering. Actually, yeah. It seems like a very, very sensible idea. I don't know what I don't know why people think they're so dumb. I mean, it's like, seems like a great idea, doesn't it?
When you cut your hair at home, you don't want to have all the mess,
Exactly. Exactly. It's just perfect solution.
That's why I didn't shave. I'm kind of like the old man in the sea right here because I just didn't feel like cleaning out my sink. Because when you shave, it gets in the sink. And that's the whole reason I'm not shaving is because I don't want to clean the sink. Vince, do you clean your sink?
Actually, I don't. I shave in the shower. It's like, okay, I got water running, whatever. It works
you got a mirror?
Out just fine. Yeah, I do have a mirror in the shower. There's a lot of stuff that you can, I'm in the shower, shaving actually takes a whole lot of water, right? So it's like, I'm taking a shower, this is a perfect time to do that. It's an extra minute, whatever, it's already running.
Do you do the scuba mask move for keeping your mirror from fogging up?
Actually, I don't. I got one of these special mirrors that does not fog up. Or at least Val got that for me a few years back. I'm not sure where she got it, but yeah, it's something where it's double paned or something such that it does not fog up.
Oh, that's nice. I'm still old-fashioned.
Well,
do you dry your razors? Do you dry your razors? That's my secret to shaving, is that you can use the same razor for like 3 or 4 months if you just dry it. Because the reason a razor becomes unusable is because it's got microscopic rust all over it. So if you dry it and blow it, just blow your own breath through it and use a towel and then let it air dry, you can use it for months.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll do one cartridge every 2 months or so. Yeah.
Nice. Well, then I also don't shave, so there's that. That saves a lot of razors.
So we have an announcement, everybody. We're no longer the Game Audio Hour. We're now the Men's Grooming Hour. So, if you're not interested in men's grooming, then now's the time to tune out because that's what we're talking about for the next 56 minutes.
Listen, manscaping is very important.
Anyway.
So, hey, guys. Hey, so we've been having some Black Friday sales, and I bet you guys have bought lots of things.
Ooh.
I have. Who wants to go first? It's been there are actually a few of these sales that are still going on, the so-called Cyber Monday. It's a very, very strange country that you guys live in. You have a Black Friday. Black Friday is actually... Why is it black?
Well, I read something on that recently, but it was on the internet, so it has to be true. My belief was always that it was Black Friday because it would be the time of year that a store's finances would go into the black rather than the red. They sold so much stuff that they finally started recovering their losses.
That is like very disappointingly modern, isn't it?
Yeah. But I read something on Facebook just this weekend that said that actually it was originally dubbed Black Friday by like the police force or something because it was the traditional time when people would be shoplifting and crimes would be committed, and the police didn't like that, obviously, and had to do extra work and whatever. And they dubbed it Black Friday, and then the stores didn't like the term, and then over the years they've just accepted the term but changed the definition. That's what it said on. But I'd never heard that before 3 days ago. And Facebook is like the bed of all truthful information.
I think it's the bed of all baby photos and restaurant photos and wedding photos, yeah.
Cat photos.
Well, anyway, back to gear. So we're going to start today's show with a bit of gear talk because we love the gear. I actually picked up 4 things. Three that are software, one that is hardware, but actually completely irrelevant to Black Friday. But discussions with the illustrious Mike Shapiro led to discussions with the equally illustrious Carl Johnson, which led to me making a not really an impulse purchase, but a tasty purchase nonetheless, which I'll get to in just a moment. So, shall I go first? I guess I probably should.
You should do it.
Okay. Well, hardware. My birthday's coming up, and
Happy
so
birthday.
I negotiated with the finance department, which is my wife, for a rather expensive a piece of hardware, which is actually the Doepfer Dark Energy Mark II. Carl, if you look at Carl's screen right now, he's going to hold up something related to the Dark Energy 2, which is, as soon as Carl gets there, you go.
Dark Energy 1. Let me get on there. I'm sure everybody's seen it.
Yeah, so I've been thinking for a long time about getting into like hardware analog gear. Up until now, as I've said many times, I just don't have space here where I am in Japan. It looks like a lot of space behind me, but actually it's not. So because the Dark Energy is really small, it's compact, it's incredibly like just the brilliance of the position that it straddles right in between modern and traditional. Like the Dark Energy 2 takes 30 minutes to warm up before the tuning of the oscillators stabilize, which is really cool. But then on the other hand, on the other side of it, it takes a MIDI in and it actually splits the MIDI in into separate components and has them as control voltage outputs on the back. That's really cool, and that's very modern. So anyway, so that's that. So I'm at the moment waiting for that to come all the way from Germany. It's quite a way from Germany.
Ooh.
I don't know. Is it actually made in Germany?
Yeah. Doepfer is German. Is Dieter delivering it himself?
He is. I believe he's walking on the seabed right now with his lead boots.
In my opinion, he can just walk on water, so he doesn't need those lead boots.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, regular viewers may remember that Kyle actually met Dieter Doepfer at a previous NAMM show.
I did, and you are going to meet him at this NAMM show, right? Because you're flying out for it.
Actually, we should probably announce about that. The people who might not have seen the tweet that we did, the Game Audio Hour is going to be there, minus me, because it's not in Japan. Thanks, guys. But 3/4 of the Game Audio Hour are going to be there, aren't you guys?
Well,
yeah.
I'm telling you, Alex, you've got a place to stay in a rental car. All you got to do is put a butt on a plane.
When is the NAMM show? Is it what are the actual dates?
Let me look it up.
Really soon.
Yeah,
and
it's like
in
50
Germany.
days away.
Not Germany. January.
January.
January 21st to 24th.
Can't just so fast with the fingers. I'm trying.
Is anybody in the chat room going to the Sony PSX event this weekend in San Francisco?
I'm going.
Because actually, I'm going to be there. How about that? So I have my the Est American border waiver something visa set up. I'm ready to be grilled by the fine folks at the customs in San Francisco International Airport. It's going to be great.
Always a good time.
If anybody in the chat room, if any of our viewers are there, then keep an eye out for me. You'll certainly be able to find me. Oh yeah, I'm going to be like this big, loud Australian git.
Whatever. So you're like, it's next week, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually flying on day after tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
anyway,
anyway,
you could just stay and work from here for a month and then go to NAMM.
well, I might need a studio. Maybe I could come and sit with you, Kyle. I'll just sit next to you and whoa.
You can use this one.
Okay, sounds good. Anyway, so let me just get to the other stuff that I got so we can then talk about some stuff that people are actually interested in. I picked up 3 software stuff. I got the Korg Legacy Wave Station, the hard price. It's the Legacy Wave Station plugin.
I have the same thing.
It's just great. I have already had the Legacy M1, and It's just great. I mean, so you go through those patches. Not only is it supremely good value, that for like I think it's like $25 you can get not only the original Wave Station but all of these like ROM cards and the cards that they released later on in the cycle of the Wave Station. And have a look. Carl's just run out to get what more hardware. He's got his MS-20. You're muted, Carl, so we can't hear you. Is that? That's that looks like the MS-20 Mini.
Yeah,
right?
No, it's what originally that Wave Station software came with. I bought it when it came out because I loved it and I still use it. And it came with this controller.
Wow.
So it's got a lot of knobs on there.
And then they used the form factor for the new MS-20, but I couldn't afford an MS-20, so I bought the software in this guy. And listen, it really turns on. You can hear it clicking. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
Right. Anyway, so I got the Korg Wave Station, which is really great. It's the same with the M1. It's fantastic. I think the download was something like 20 meg or something like that, and then you get all these thousands and thousands of original, authentic late 80s, early 90s pop tones. Is just fantastic. So I picked up that. And the other thing I got was, you guys will know that I'm a bit of a supporter of the D16 group from Poland. Mm-hmm. D16 do a number of really good sort of analog modeled effects, and they also do emulation software synths of the classic Roland TR boxes, TR-99, 808, and 505, I believe, as well as a 303 synth and an SH-101 synth. I bought their bit crusher, which is called Decimort, which was going for like 40% off. Their stuff is very affordable, and if you, even though the Black Friday sale I think might have finished now, if you race to get it right now, you might be able to get it.
Yeah, it's still going on. Everything is 40% off.
Yeah, those silver box effects that they have on the bottom of their products page. So I've got 3 of them now. I've got the Devastor diode clipper, the Antrasol BBD flanger, and yeah, I picked up their bit crusher. The bit crusher is really, really fantastic. I mean, bit crusher, you may think, yeah, bit crusher, well, it's just crushing bits. I mean, what's the difference between, just some native DAW bit crusher and, this plugin? This one comes with a really nice filter in it as well as options for one really thing is that it gives you two channels for it. So it's stereo. You feed it stereo, and you either link the channels together, or you can unlink the left and the right, so you can have slightly different bit crushed and filter settings for the left and the right channel, which is a new and really, really super funky way to spread your mono signal out into stereo. So basically, you'll have you can have different sampling rates on the left and the right channel, which creates some really interesting sort of chorus effects like that, which is just fantastic. So definitely pick up that if you're looking for a bit crusher. So D16 group. That's d16.pl, I think, from Poland. Mm-hmm. It's great to see. I've said it before, but it's so fantastic to see these smaller smaller developers coming up in sort of lesser known places like Poland. PSP is from Poland, as is D16. Anyway, and the third thing I got was drum drops. Drum sample libraries. Yes, I bought a sample library. Drum drops are still doing their sale. Drum drops is fantastic because they do drum sample. They sample vintage drum kits. The reason that they're really great is because they offer a whole range of different pricing tiers. So you can get, if you're like me, I don't use Contact. I don't use what is it called, EXS24. I use Renoise. So all I need are the WAV files. So they have like a cheaper, they have like multi-velocity wave pack if you're like me and you just want the raw samples, or you can get the Contact interface as a separate thing, or if you're using just like a really basic drum machine and you don't need all these 16 levels of velocity for each hit, they offer like a really affordable single hit pack, which is like 3 velocities for each hit. If you just want to like slam it into your machine or whatever and get going. So the kits and the recordings sound fantastic. So I got them just because they're super affordable. They sound great, and again, it's just they're from the UK, but again, it's just another small company doing really good, interesting things that's definitely worth supporting. So those are the three things that I got. Vince, how about you?
Ooh, let's see. I didn't get too much. Let's see. So first, there is another small company that I like. I like doing business with. Impact Soundworks. Many video game guys probably know about them because they were actually founded by two video game music composers. But they're still lesser known in the whole contact instrument world. But they've got this 50% off thing going on. It's still going on right now. And I decided to get their Rhapsody orchestral percussion for an even $99. It's really quite good. It's really very, very good. I was talking with Mike a little earlier about some of my orchestral mock-ups, and there were a lot of things I was doing well. One of them was not percussion, because I was still using a lot of old contact percussion from back in the 2000s, not the 2010s, the 2000s. And it's amazing how much technology and recording has gotten better over the last 5 to 10 years. And there's a really big difference in these modern percussion libraries. Even though percussion is one of those things that many people consider, yeah, this is a solved thing. But man, just having a 15 gigs worth of orchestral percussion versus here's 50 megs, that should be enough for a timpani and a couple of rolls, right? Wow, it's a big difference. Really big difference getting into the modern world of orchestral percussion now.
Nice.
I've got some other things, but they're not quite Black Friday things, and I kind of want to broach them a little bit later in the show. So what about you, Kyle?
Oh, well, that's what I was thinking, too, is I purchased a couple of things before Black Friday, but they were still good deals, and I think the deal is still going on. Output Exhale, which I really like. I've been having fun exploring that. It's got that sound to it that you can get. You remember that 10cc song, I'm Not in Love, and they had that kind of keyboard pad of breathy vocals just layered on top of each other. Not really Enya-like, because a lot of people think Enya when I say that, but they had a different sound, and Exhale kind of captures that. I was really happy with that, because that's something if you go back to old computer music magazines too, there's a question from the illustrious Kyle Johnson, say, how do you get that sound? And they explain how to record that sound way back in the 2000s in that magazine. So I picked that up, and also I got Sound Toys 5 because it finally came out, and those of us who already owned a bunch of Sound Toys stuff got a discount. So if you own any Sound Toys gear, I definitely recommend it. It's still on sale. I mean, brand new. If you don't own anything, it's $3.99, and it used to be $5.99. So they've taken a couple hundred off of you there. But if you own anything, you can check the boxes of what you own, and Sound Toys will keep lowering that price. I ended up getting Sound Toys 5 for $80, I think, because of all the other previous purchase. And it's really cool because now it's got this rack system, and it's not just that it looks cool. You can actually stack things, and inside it does the internal routing inside the plug-in now, instead of you having to stack them in Ableton and have Ableton do that routing. Or even worse yet, putting them on different tracks in Logic or something and having to do some audio routing. This all happens in the box, and then you can save all those presets. That's very valuable to me. So Exhale and Sound Toys I picked up before. I use GRM Tools a lot, and I hear that they have a sale going on. So check out GRM Tools at inagrm.com. Definitely recommend that, but that's just a recommendation. So what I did pick up was Stephen Slate's Trigger. Have you guys ever used the drum triggering system by Stephen Slate?
Stephen Slate is his marketing is bizarre. It's quite. I mean,
so hard to watch.
his eyes. He doesn't blink. Have you noticed when he talks during his videos? He never blinks, and he kind of looks like CG. Oh. he looks like a sort of a badly mocapped CG character when he talks.
If they had a costume contest at NAMM, everybody would go as Stephen Slate.
I mean, he seems like I love what they're doing. I mean, I don't own any of their stuff, but I think it's really refreshing and it's like funny. Some of these videos are just you can see that he knows how to poke humor at himself, which is great. And you know, he some of his videos are just hilarious. But and his products, you know, he's doing some interesting stuff there. And I think he was one of the early adopters of like a sort of a subscription model for his plugins, which of course, you know, that's whether or not that is a good thing or a bad thing is debatable. But it's just great that he's very sort of progressive and just funny. So how is his
subscription model is having a Black Friday sale right now? I don't know what it is, but I definitely dig. I've used Slate's Trigger a lot on record stuff that I've worked on with other people. That's where I was introduced to it, and it's super fast and very good. The crossover just seems to be natural, which is great because you get a lot of crossover when you set up some sort of drum triggering system. And of course, I have run into, thanks to Trigger, the situation where I mixed a record and the drummer goes, "Oh my God, what did you do to the drums? They sound so amazing." I was like, "Dude, you just played really well. You did a great job." Not telling him that I had replaced almost everything with a new Trigger sample.
Wow.
It does get you in a lot of trouble because you don't want to say, "Well, I replaced all your drums," but it's all about sound, right? And you got to get things in the mix. And you know, somebody shows up with a kit that doesn't quite have the bite you need. You do try to work with it, obviously, and you try to get it to really be where it needs to be. But sometimes it doesn't work, and so you just want to replace the snare or the kick or something, and you just drop in Trigger. $250 normally. It's $99 right now, and you can add in these packages that Steven Slate has, and I picked up two of them. I picked up the David Bindeth expansion and the Blackbird expansion, and if you watch the video on what they went through to record drums at Blackbird Studio, that'll just make your wallet just start throwing money at the screen. It's unbelievable what they're doing over at Blackbird. So, so that's a good deal, right? Because Blackbird was $149, and the Slate Digital, instead of being $250, was $99. So there's a really good deal right there, just to get some really nice drums. And again, the person's still playing it. All you're doing is taking those transients and using that to call a sample that's been pre-recorded at. And you get to choose all kinds of drums. You can say, "I want a Gretsch kit from the 50s that was recorded using ribbon microphones," and that's in there. And you just slide that into these transients, and next thing you know, that drummer goes, "Oh my God, I don't even own a Gretsch kit." But the big thing that I got is hardware as well. Can you imagine?
Ooh.
Wow.
I picked up the Korg ARP Odyssey.
Oh, really?
I did.
Nice.
I can't wait.
Nice.
So I got one for $649 instead of a regular $1,000 on this website that I'll put in the show notes. You know, I don't even think I have to talk about that. It's an ARP Odyssey, for Christ's sake. It's a new ARP Odyssey. What more do you need to say? Google ARP Odyssey if you've never heard one, because you have. You've heard it on thousands of records, but it's an amazing sound, a very unique synth.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I congratulate you on your Dopefer, which would have been a purchase for me had I not had one previously, because I love Dopefer stuff.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if it's just me, but it's really nice when you buy a product that's quite expensive, like this. It's really nice to find that the people behind the product are, you know, not only, you know, fairly legendary, I guess, in music production circles, but when you read the history of what they've done and what they've contributed to the stuff that we use every day and what the tools that we use to, you know, get our music out there and our sounds out there for games, it's just a nice feeling to know that, wow, you know, reading the history of David Dopefer and his work, of course, with establishing the Euro rack format and this whole new sort of renaissance, I guess you call it, of like appreciation and fun that people are having with analog synthesizer gear because of the Eurorack format. And of course, there's 4 or 5 other like standards for modular kit at the moment. But yeah, it's great. So I'm looking for it. But the ARP Odyssey,
whoa,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I am just looking at this link that Kyle just put out there. It's like, oh,
yes,
wow,
right? Who can turn that down?
I've also dealt with these guys before, so I know it's you never know with some shop that you've never heard of on the internet. But I've dealt with these guys, so that's cool.
Now Matt M made a good point. He's holding out for the Moog Mother 32. What's
the status with that? Is it like it's not out yet? Is it?
I don't know. I'm so excited. There's a buzz in my ear. I'm just living off of the fumes of advertising when it comes to Mother. I can't wait to get something. What I really want to do is get 3 of them because they have the coolest rack for hooking 3 of them together. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's a little desktop kind of jobbity job, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, I did look at, when I was looking for my criteria for a hardware synthesizer, I wanted something small within my price range. The Moog was just a bit above the price range, but also I wanted something that was this nice hybrid between modern functionality that can slot into a MIDI setup like I have. It doesn't take much space. That's the reason why ultimately I chose. Actually, the main reason is because I asked Kyle about his Dark Energy 1, and the gregarious, magnanimous Kyle went and recorded an 11-minute, 200-megabyte solo of him just twiddling the knobs on his Dark Energy 1 for me in like pristine 4824, massive file that took like 10 minutes to download. And yeah, that was great listening to it and putting it through a few analyzers and having a look at how clean the signal is. And I thought, wow, it's so dense, full of all of these overtones and this beautiful steps kind of array of overtones. I thought, Kyle suggested, why don't you try putting it through some of your effects? So I did. So I tried putting his file Kyle's file that he recorded for me through the stuff that I normally use, like PSP Echo and Valhalla Ubermod, and also this new D16 Bit Crusher. Wow, it's like I was amazed at how different the same effects that I'm used to hearing every day, how different they sound with that kind of signal. Like I never really. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like especially the Ubermod, the chorus. It's like a modulation chorus, flanger, granular kind of synthesizer from Valhalla DSP. It suddenly bloomed out into this massive, luscious tone. I thought, where is this coming from? And the same with the new D16 Bit Crusher that I got. Bit crushing a mono signal out of Kyle's Dark Energy, and then slightly adjusting the settings on the left and the right channel so that they're bit crushing different sampling rates on the left and right channel from this mono signal. That's some pretty deep stuff right there. It sounded really, really, really incredible. So
did
I
you
don't know
see,
why I'm talking about this, but
oh, sorry about that. I'm trying to get rid of a chat. Did you see the last picture I took from RX with the LFO going off? Do you see how even that was and how precise?
Yeah, just this is just a work of art. Beautiful.
I know. I want it to be my background, my desktop background.
One thing I wanted to speak for Mike Shapiro, who is sadly absent from today's show.
I think you read my mind.
I actually, the Native Instruments sale is actually still going. I believe it goes for another 7 days, and they've got a whole slew of stuff which 50% off. So I was actually curious about getting a sample library piano. What is all the sample library stuff I'm getting these days? It's not healthy for me. It's not good for me, all the samples. Anyway,
you've been bit, sir. You've been bitten.
This funny thing is, like, I buy these sample libraries thinking, oh, I'll use them one day. It'll be good to have it, and I'm getting that now while it's cheap, and then I never use it because I think I'm playing like a piano and think I could patch this, and end up just sort of spending 4 weeks making a piano instead of just using some. Anyway, that's a different story. Mike, I was asking him about piano. So they have Alicia's keys, but recently in Complete 10, is that the latest one?
Yeah.
But like Rocky 10, they released three new piano libraries: the Grandeur, the Gentleman, and the Maverick. Fairly questionable names for grand pianos, if you ask me. But anyway, so I asked Mike to sort of demo those piano libraries to see which one he liked, and maybe picking one up myself. So he actually chose, of the three, he chose the Maverick, which is a sort of a vintage Steinway D Grand, I believe. So the Grandeur is supposed to be very modern concert hall concert piano. The Gentleman is supposed to be an upright, and the Maverick is supposed to be sort of a very old vintage D Grand. I say supposed to be. That's a patching of phonetic saying supposed to be. It is, because it's a sample version of these original instruments. He actually chose the Maverick. He said that and it actually has become a new favorite of his because it's a very warm kind of tone as opposed to a lot of piano sample libraries, which I guess tend to be a bit thin. So I may also pick that up. So anybody else interested, if you go to Native Instruments' website right now, there's actually a tab at the top which says something like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas deals or something. I think it goes till December 7th. So Contact is 50% off. A number of the other synths that they do, Effects, Transient Designer, which I know Kyle likes.
Yeah.
Also, all of the synths and sample libraries are all 50% off right now. So the pianos, I believe, are coming at about $52, I think, which is 50% off the regular price. So another thing to check out.
Mike, also, he's not here, and I would normally save this for him to talk about when he's on the show, but because the deal might end, he just fell in love with the 8DO string library. So if you go to 8DO and you look up their Adagio strings bundle, Mike said the violin is good just by itself, but he really enjoyed the bundle as well. The bundle is 40% off, so I think it comes down to about $600. But he was saying that's amazing. Now I say Adagio because they have this other one called like Aggresso or whatever. I can't think of the Italian term.
The agitato strings.
That's it, agitato. And so that's actually kind of an add-on, if I understand, to Adagio because it's like more articulations or something. And also in their free area, they have a legato from that agitato, which you can have for free. Well, it's a tri-pack, so I don't know how those work. I don't think you ever have to pay or register them, but you probably get very little since it's a tri-pack. The one I'm excited to get, actually, is Cinemorph X by some of my favorite guys. Let me get to the link first. Sample Logic, Cinemorph X. Because I have, it basically replaces 3 libraries, the Elements, Air, and something else which I can't think of right now. So if you have those 3 libraries, which I will tell you as soon as the link comes up, you will be able to upgrade for only, I think, $299, which isn't bad. It's probably a limited deal. I'm clicking the button and it's not going anywhere. So it replaces Air Expanded and geez, I'm not being very helpful. Air Expanded, the Elements, and Synergy. I use Synergy X a lot. I don't think I've ever used Air Expanded, but mostly because Synergy X always, or Morphestra, even the old Morphestra, gets me right where I'm trying to go. And as much as I love having their libraries, I end up not using some of them because the other ones are so good I don't need to go looking for the sound I'm looking for. I find it, But anyway, if you have Air, the Elements, and Synergy X, you can upgrade to Cinemorph X for $199, which is pretty good. And so I'm looking forward to getting that. But I think that's a limited time price. It's not really a Black Friday thing. But when I brought this up, I want to pop in a really quick question for you guys that had nothing to do with what we talked about in the green room for the show to be about. But I'm a huge fan of John Debney, maybe more than the average bear. And when he endorses something, I kind of run to it. Do you guys have somebody other than Jordan Rudess that you get excited about when he says, he loves something?
That's a very good question. Vince?
No, I learned my lesson on Jordan Rudess a long time ago. Never again. Never again.
Can I contact him and get him on the show? Do you guys want to do that?
That'd be cool.
Hey, that'd be cool. Fun? It's great. But, oh my God.
What a talented guy. But, my God, he endorses everything. He endorsed my grandmother's funeral. I swear to God, he's been everywhere endorsing everything. Oh, wait. Matt M. said something about Expert Sleeper, which Silent Way software and E3 module. Was he saying there's a deal on Expert Sleeper? Because that's a really good company. I don't know. You guys see it?
50% off?
Yeah, 50% off Contact. Oh, man, wow. Expert Sleeper. Great company. Great company. Well, anyway, so you guys don't go for any endorsers? They don't really get you going?
That's an interesting question.
Really.
That is a really interesting question, and also we should also talk about how valid that is. I mean, it is very, if you have somebody that likes, if you have somebody whose music that you really like, and they say that they use this DAW or they use that plugin or they use this library, how valuable is that to know for newcomers to the game as well? Because it's an interesting topic. Me personally, I don't. The answer is no. However, when I'm watching sort of like producer in the studio kind of videos, or like making of kind of videos of really good techno tracks or the EDM tracks or stuff like that, I will admit to being sometimes swayed. Like if I listen to the song, wow, that's a great song. It's by great artists I like, for example, like Dave Smith or some of the Detroit techno guys, or John Tejada or some. It's all sort of Detroit style, minimal electronica kind of stuff, which is what I like. I will admit to being easily swayed when I say, oh, they use that, and then I'll sort of think, oh, man, that it'll sort of subconsciously raise the stock value of that up in the back of my head. So when I see it next in a forum and somebody says, oh, I really like this, I think, oh, yeah, so-and-so uses that as well. It's funny how that, as much as I say that, yeah, I don't care what they use, I use what I use, and, that's fine, because I'd never be able to write music like those guys anyway, so I know that just having that gear is not going to give me that kind of song or that kind of ability to create that kind of music. But there is sort of a subconscious. We are affected, I believe, like subconsciously by these recommendations from people that we respect, in a musical sense. The biggest one, I guess, that influences a lot of new people in the whole field of game audio is the choice of DAW, because that is. I'm not going to talk about DAWs, but we are going to talk about this. That is one thing that when you start up, doing game audio, or you've got a friend who's making a game, you play guitar or whatever, and you just want to try and make some music for their game or whatever. The first thing that you might do is think about, well, I guess I need software to do this, and there's so many options, and they all seem really good. I don't know, which one do I choose? If you have a little bit of budget, should I go with Live because all the techno guys use Live, or should I go with Logic because all of the the synthy guys use Logic, or Cubase or Pro Tools because the recording guys use Pro Tools or whatever. So I guess the question at this point is, when somebody's choosing their tools when they're first starting out, how much weight would you guys put on recommendations from people that you respect when you're very new to the whole field?
Go, Vince.
Ooh. I mean, honestly, when I started out, I looked at a lot of recommendations, and then I actually went the exact opposite direction. But I also think that I started out in a very different place from where we are right now in 2015. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you said sampled library. There are only so many sampled libraries back then. You had Peter Selichik's Advanced Orchestra. You had Miroslav on Akai format. You had only so many things. And I was like, oh, okay, I know what these things are. And I knew that I could quickly estimate that such a percentage of people actually have that sound. And I'm going to try my best to have a slightly different sound, which meant I knew exactly where not to go. So that did a good job, I think, of directing me back in the last decade. Nowadays, there's just so many options with all these different things, and I think what's even more useful than seeing all the endorsements or someone just giving out a straight recommendation is seeing what people are actually doing with it and being privy to the process in some way, by sitting by their side while they're using an effect. Or nowadays with YouTube, hey, here's what I'm doing in YouTube, and I am sharing my screencast of what I'm doing in Logic. Here's the envelopes that I'm drawing in, here's the type of automation that I'm using for this, and you could quickly eyeball, hey, that looks like this guy on YouTube is using this instrument, and he has a pretty similar process to what I've got, and I think he's got a sound that I'm looking for right now where I am. Hey, maybe I'll go grab that instrument. I think that's actually not a bad thing. That's probably a pretty a good idea if you see that.
It's such a natural thing, especially when it comes to learning an instrument, especially with popular instruments like guitar, for example. Probably if I ask you right now, Carl, when you first were starting out the guitar long ago, what was the type of guitar that you wanted, and why was it that?
Oh, easy. Stratocaster, because of Pink Floyd.
See, I mean, that's exactly, like, with instruments, it's very natural that you might think, I want, like, when I was small, I wanted a P bass because John Deacon from Queen used a P bass, right?
Yeah.
And that's the sound. I loved his bass tone, and that's what I wanted, so that's why I got it. So,
but it took a long time to get one. I ended up just going with the body shape because I was attracted to the body shape. But the first guitar I ever got, I traded all my Kiss records for. I had collected Kiss records from the first one to double platinum, or maybe it was some other thing. Now, mind you, I didn't grow up on this kind of stuff. It's just what my friends were listening to. I grew up on Billie Holiday and, my dad listened to the hell out of Leon Redbone. Did you guys ever heard of Leon Redbone?
No.
Oh, you've got to check out Leon Redbone. So I grew up on a lot of kind of jazz cross Dixieland. And but my brother Matt, who's 10 years older than me, had this awesome collection of records with ZZ Top and Roxy Music and Led Zeppelin, and that was really my introduction into that stuff. But then my friends that were my age were into Kiss, right? Because that's what you had to be, And so I would mow the lawns and collect records and buy records, and then I put together this collection. And then they did a disco record, and even with my at a young age having somewhat of a breadth of musical influences because of having a musical family, disco I was not having it. That's all there is to it. No. And when Kiss did a disco record, I took them. I just threw them at my next friend who had a guitar he was willing to give away. I said, take this crap. To this day, I kind of like some disco, but don't tell anybody. But I didn't like Kiss disco is horrible. Don't play Kiss disco. It's just not right. And but anyway, it resulted in me being able to trade him for a guitar. And he had these guitars, and he's like, well, he's a kid like me. I had to ask my dad. He had to ask his dad, but they agreed. His dad played in a country band, had amazing guitars. And he had this silver-tone Bobcat shaped like a Stratocaster, and that's why I went for that one, because of the shape. I ended up selling that guitar in my college years like a foolish idiot. And about 3 years ago, I found one on eBay, the exact same model, same year, same color, so I bought it again. Never lose that. Yeah.
It's funny, like, by extension, then you could say that if somebody new to the audio game really desperately wants, for example, Massive, okay? Now, there are so many software synthesizers out there, some of them free, some of them far cheaper than Massive, that can give you kind of a similar kind of thing that what Massive does. But they really want Massive because so-and-so uses Massive, right? For example. Now, if somebody came to you and said that, I really want Massive. Yeah, Massive gives that tone, just like insert generic EDM producer here.
Yeah.
It's that Massive. I just want Massive. And you heard that. You'd think, well, you could also try this and this and this because they sound very similar to Massive. And it all depends on how you program it. The same argument, you may want a Stratocaster because of Hendrix or whatever. However, if you just got some Squire Strat copy or something, if you learn the hell out of it, you could get the same thing as Hendrix just by changing your playing, right? So I don't know how harsh we should be with people who come into the game saying, yeah, I really want Pro Tools because Pro Tools that's the professional sound. All DAWs sound different, and Pro Tools is the pro one because that's what all the pros use.
I think we should create no barriers to entry and not make any kind of recommendations against something. I certainly have preferences, but man, I use Pro Tools every day, and it's not my favorite DAW. And if that's what somebody's going to be into to get into the market to get their creativity out, then hell, I'd contribute to them buying the license, because that's what's important, right? Not just wait a minute. Did I say contribute to? I scratch that. Anybody listen to this? I'm not. When I say contribute, I mean
everybody. Pro Tools licenses. Carl's selling them off. Thanks, Kyle.
You know what? I think it's important. But I wanted to say one more thing, and because I know Vince has got a big topic to get onto, and we have time, and I think it's important to do. is that I feel that endorsements of hardware are better for me than endorsements for software. Because software I kind of hate that I don't own it, that I've got this virtual version of something, which is why I buy so much hardware, is I can't get out of the mindset of I bought it, I own it. I can solder it, I can do anything I want to it, I can take it to my friend's house and let him use it for months and not have to report to anybody. And so, therefore, when it comes to hardware, my ear is a little bit more to the streets about what people are using and recommending, because, and also it comes down to they're actually manufacturing something, and even though this version of an oscillated, of some sort of synthesizer, I don't like synthesizer. Let's go with a compressor. This compressor is made by a popular company, but they may have put out a lemon, and I wouldn't know that, But with software, yeah, they're not going to put out a lemon, but you also don't technically own it. So I still go in that space where I want to own what it is that I'm using, and then because of that, I want really good endorsements to make sure I'm not buying a lemon or that I'm not getting something, because hardware is typically more expensive. I don't want to spend money on a piece of hardware and find out that there was a cheaper, better version someplace else without listening to the people who I look up to and who use these kind of things.
I think the most important thing, and I mean this is the obvious argument at this end of this conversation, is just, choose your tools and really, really, really get to know them. I think we mentioned this before, that the one sort of negative thing about software is that because it's so convenient, you just swap it in and out. You don't need desk space. It's just right there inside your computer. You buy with a credit card. You don't wait for delivery. There's no box. There's no wrapping. It's all just really quick and easy. It's really easy to sort of become very fickle and just sort of bounce between different kinds of things. And if you have a budget for it because you're doing it professionally, for example, it's like, this is for work. It's work. So it's like jump through all these different products. One of the greatest things that I did with this project that we're working on, the Vitae Backroom, is stick to the same tools for an entire year and a half on the same project, because it was important, because I wanted a specific tone. So it had to sound a certain way, so I only wanted to use the same synthesizers and the same compressors and the same all of that. So sticking with the same thing, like now, a year and a half later, I'm so familiar with these tools now that this is like a completely new appreciation of the depth of what they're capable of. So regardless of hardware, software, or who recommends it, or whether or not it's good or bad or whatever, just grabbing something and learning it to the absolute bottom of what it can do is always going to get you a better result than this because so-and-so uses it, or,
absolutely.
Because it's hardware or whatever, Yeah,
absolutely. So let's talk about our sponsor and maybe announce a winner.
Yeah.
So we'd like to say thank you, Isotope, for sponsoring the show. Isotope's also having a Black Friday deals going on right now, so check out their website, isotope.com, izotope.com. The pretty picture that I posted up there comes from RX, and did you notice in the black there's almost no noise in the dark energy, which I love, because in a spectral analyzer you're going to see a lot of noise in the black areas if it's not a very good piece of machinery. And RX helped Alex buy the synth that he truly dearly wanted deep down. So Alex says thank you to Isotope as well for the RX pictures that I sent him. Is that as indirect as I can get?
Isotopes, yeah, they're fantastic. I mean, talk about depth. The depth that they go in their software. Oh. There's stuff you can just grab it, learn that to the bottom, and you'll never need anything again.
So I am extremely jealous of the winner of this package. It is Ozone 7 Advanced. This is a special deal, too, because it's a special time of year, and Isotope really wanted us to do something special on the show. Thank you, Isotope, for giving us such a big package to be able to deliver to everybody. And, my 13-year-old dude in my brain just said, don't say it that way again. So, Alex, would you, or Isaac, as I've taken to calling you in the last 10 minutes, do you mind announcing the winner? I hear a drum roll.
Yes, I shall do that, Keith. So, are we ready? Thank you, everybody, for your entries. I've been monitoring them all week. And the winner of Ozone, the winner is... The winner is... Thanks, Vince. The winner is Lumina. Lumina, who is actually in the chat room at the moment. Congratulations. The fantastic tweet was Witty Chat 84, Phrase Library Tools, Game Audio Hour. Thanks, Isotope, for sponsoring Phrase It Up. So congratulations, Lumina. You have won Ozone.
7
Amazing.
Advanced.
Oh,
Everybody else who missed out, don't worry. Come on back, because we're going to have more giveaways coming up, and tell your friends about it. Actually, don't tell too many friends about it, because then there's less chance that you're going to win. But,
but that's the dichotomy, isn't it? I mean, the more people that know, the better prizes are. The more often that we'll be doing giveaways. We don't want to, saturate the waters. So, but the more people that participate in the giveaways increases the number, and therefore increases the frequency at which we do the giveaways. So it's really kind of a balancing act. So definitely tell people about it, and you still stand a really good chance. So thank you, Isotope, and congratulations, Lumina, for the Ozone 7 Advanced. And what's going to happen is that I contact Isotope, and Isotope contacts you with a license. It's that simple. And
also thanks to Lumen, who is actually a regular viewer. We see Lumina week to week in our chat room, so it's great to have people in the chat room to, it feels more like a family, which it is, isn't it, guys? Let's gather around and have a bit of a group hug there. There we go.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Vince, we have now given you 8 minutes for your hard topic, but I totally want to go over, because this is very important. As much as everybody's willing to, I'm here for you. If you want to talk 4 hours on this subject.
Well, okay, let's try to get into it. So one of the other purchases that I actually made during this last week was from sample modeling, and sample modeling is known for doing that weird combo of sampling plus physical modeling in order to portray these orchestral instruments. They did brass back in the late 2000s, and they're very well known for that. And then they went into woodwinds, and they just put out a string library, or a string instrument, called the viola. They went with the viola, and it sounds kind of interesting. I'm actually going to share my screen here and play around with it.
Nice.
It's kind of funny. Let's try.
We may not actually have time for the discussion. We'll just sort of sail the show out on Vince's excellent EB playing.
Well, I know that...
we'll see what this is like. We'll try this.
Alex, if you have to go, because I know your time is tight, please feel free to drop out, and I'll just stay with Vince.
Okay.
So it's a solo viola, and I'm still learning it. And actually, unlike a lot of other sample modeling instruments in the past, it didn't get a really huge, heated, oh wow, this is awesome reaction from people. A lot of people were very frustrated and surprised that it sounded not very realistic compared to a lot of other solo string instruments that are out there. I actually have a couple of other solo violas here. This one, I don't know if you can see it, this is the Fisher viola, which is a pretty cool instrument. I'll play a little bit of that.
You're not actually screen sharing, by the way. We're just seeing you, but that's fine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to try this again. Let's try this. Let's see. Can you see this now?
There we go. That's better.
So here's the Fisher viola. Now, the actual tone is pretty interesting for this. You know, the Fisher viola has really good tone, and a lot of people would say it's pretty realistic, especially with the vibrato. Wait a minute. Oops, wrong instrument. Sorry.
Oh, I liked it, though. Hey, Vince, can you bump up the volume? Bump up the volume.
Let me try. I'm gonna do this.
Actually, I'm getting good volume.
Are you? I'm getting very faint. It's hard to hear, so I wasn't sure if I was the only one.
So that's the Fisher viola. Then I'm gonna go right to this viola here. This is what the sample modeling viola looks like.
Oh, wow.
Hmm. Interesting, isn't it?
That's pretty. I like the trill.
I wanted to.
Yeah, there's some interesting. Whoa, there's some interesting things going on with these that it's probably not really super noticeable, but the Fisher viola actually has a really good tone to it, but it's very slow to me. Slow in the sense that it will take anywhere from 30 to 50 milliseconds for a note to actually respond to a note from my iwi. So if I'm going to do a trill on this, for example, sorry, I'm going to go here to my Fisher viola.
You know what's funny is I actually have a Stroh violin, a very weird violin to own, and the Fisher viola has a Stroh violin kind of sound to it.
Oh, that amplified.
Yeah, it's kind of metallic-y, like it's coming out of a metal horn.
I'm going to need to go in a moment, but I want to just say this because it's really interesting to me, Vince. The sample modeling one sounds nothing like a viola. Instead, it sounds like a really, really cool synth wind instrument.
That's kind of the thing here. There's a lot of people on the forums that have been talking about how playable this thing is because unlike a lot of other string instruments, you don't rely on key switching. You don't have to say, hey, I'm going to be playing trills now. I'm going to be playing these leaps now. I'm going to be key switching to mute. Everything is all about continuous controllers and playing with really rich MIDI information. And if you give it a lot of MIDI information really densely, it will respond to it in a really nice way. And it responds really, really fast. Unlike the Fisher viola, which is more typical, where you do have key switches, you do have to, be very careful about how I'm going to change to staccato and pizzicato. I have to trigger staccato with another note in Fisher viola, whereas with, let me just go do this. It doesn't sound like staccato at all with that.
No.
But if I go onto my... You get it.
It sounds like it's bowing in the exact same place, though.
Mm-hmm.
Which can sound very repetitive if you're not careful. Can you move the bow around?
I can move the bow around. I haven't actually assigned it to a CC on my
Oh, okay, but it's possible. You can get nearer the bridge and the neck.
Yeah, it's totally possible to do that.
I think if I was actually an iwi player like you are, I would definitely prefer the sample modeled version because it sounds so much more fun to play, but I wouldn't ever want to use it where it needed to sound exactly like a viola, because to me, it sounds like a really, really nice sort of synth wind instrument when you play it. I can tell that it's being played like a wind instrument, where the Embertone one sounds much more. I guess the playing doesn't fit with it so much because obviously you're triggering it with like a wind instrument, but the actual tone itself sounds much more like a viola.
Right. Yeah, I like the playability. I like how responsive the SWAM sample modeling viola is. And I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Because it responds to me, I want to learn it more so that it can get the right fingering, get the right mouth and bite technique, because I'm using vibrato with my teeth with the bite sensor instead
Oh,
of with
gotcha.
the thumb. So and I'm trying to actually layer it with all the violas that I actually have in order to get like a really good viola section. So
That's beautiful. Hey Vince,
I think
does the Iwi have an accelerometer?
no, so it doesn't respond to the actual movement of the instrument.
You
I
could
think the
tape your
diff
phone to it though, right? And use your phone as some sort of.
Some people actually have done that where they'll add something, like they'll just attach it onto the side of the instrument and then you know track that as
Gotcha.
well.
I think
Gotcha.
the problem seems to be the note changes, because obviously on a violin, on a string like a bowed instrument, you have two choices to change notes. You can either pull, like if you're pulling or pushing the bow, you can change the note with a continuous bow movement, or you can reverse the direction of the bow and add an attack to the next note. So
Yeah,
when you've got these long legato notes, it sounds fine, but when you're changing the notes rapidly, especially the trills, it doesn't seem to be reflecting whether the bow is actually changing direction at the same time and attacking each time, or just being only your left hand is changing and your right hand is a continuous bow movement. Um, but then again, as you're saying, it comes down to whether or not sort of hey, there's me. It comes down to whether or not realism is that important. Because I think if you are an iwi player, then I would much prefer the different kind of tones and sort of nuances that you get out of something that is actually played physically by you through that kind of controller,
right.
even though it doesn't sound exactly like a viola.
Yeah, I mean it's uh, being able to have that expressive possibility is such an important thing, and I think being able to exercise that physically with what you've learned with your hands and your mouth, your embouchure, in and using that to translate immediately into composition is a really cool thing. And this is kind of connecting back to last week where we were talking about uh, phrase libraries and why I've never really been a big fan of that, because phrase libraries are really cool, but for me, music is very much a physical thing, and the translation comes from these idioms that I've learned with my hands, and that becomes the notes more than, oh, I'm hearing a really cool sound, I'm hearing a really cool phrase, even a really cool tone. That doesn't become the music for me as much as this. And I think that there are a lot of people that are like that, especially people who go into composition starting out as instrumentalists, as, oh, I'm a guitarist, I'm a violinist, and this is the type of music that I want to translate, because it's not just the sound of the music, it's also everything about how they perform the music with their body that translates into the final piece of music that they want to make. And I'm kind of interested in what you guys think, because you know you're a guitarist, you're a bassist. How much does that feel right with you? Does that actually connect with you?
Oh boy, I have to. Yeah, I absolutely. I'm 100% in having my fingers on the instrument or on the mixing console, and so I have this Tascam US 2400 when most people are using a mouse. I just have to get in there and be part of the music.
Hmm.
I got to go,
Absolutely.
guys. I'm going to. I won't be around next week because I'll be at PSX. So I'll
Okay.
see you. We have a show at the end. Actually, after that, I guess it'll be Christmas, won't it?
Yeah, I'll announce what our show schedule is going
Ooh.
to be once I get together with you guys and figure out who's going to be where when.
Okay. Well, anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody. If I don't see you before then, have a
Yeah,
great
well, Merry Christmas. I'll see you
happy
though.
holidays. I'll see anybody
Later.
in San Francisco next week if you're going. See you there.
Oh
Bye.
yes, we will definitely do a San Francisco greeting.
See you.
Oh, ooh.
You know, Vince, I wish that. So I have this Yamaha G50, and I plug my guitar into that through a MIDI pickup, a Roland GK2, I think it's called. and try to do as much that way as possible, because I'm not a pianist, so I'm really kind of, it slows down my workflow, and all kinds of issues happen when I'm on a piano. One thing I've noticed, and we've talked about it in an earlier show, is when I run my guitar into the G50 and I'm working on an orchestral thing, I get a full breadth of the chord spectrum. Whereas if I'm on a piano, I'm usually covering like one octave. So with a guitar, I've got like 3 octaves just going off just by strumming a chord. And I find that really useful when I'm writing big, lush things.
Yeah.
But I separate my mind from wanting to get my hands on the instrument to using a phrase library. I enjoy the phrase library because of the options in post. Like I've already written something, and I've written like a violin line that's very boring, and now I can look at this phrase library's violin options as doing something very colorful that I didn't think to do. I think that's the what I like the most about a phrase library. But leading up to that, I'm totally like you. I just want to have my instrument. I want to be in control of everything that's happened. Well, you didn't say control, but in my interpretation of the way I work, I want to be in control of every nuance and every note of each instrument by actually being involved with the instrument somehow, and then add flourishes later.
Yeah, I agree. Having that control is really important, and it sometimes feels weird actually seeing some of the software that's coming out where it feels like you're giving up some control sometimes. Yeah, well, especially in the orchestral library world, where back in the late '90s, early 2000s, what I learned was I'm going to put a whole lot of stuff into this note. You know, CC2, CC11, CC1. Some of them actually respond to the CC70s for like for envelope response and whatnot. And then there was a slightly different world that came after that in the mid 2000s, and we actually had a little bit less of that control.
Yeah.
And now we're getting back to this world where, okay, we don't have the 1 gigabyte solo viola here, which is the Embertone solo viola is 1.6 gigabytes, and 1 gigabyte definitely has to be in RAM in order to use it properly.
Wow.
And then we go to this other viola, which, okay, it's not quite the most realistic instrument in terms of replicating the viola sound, but it gives you so much control, and you have this very fine control, and I can do it with an iwi, I can do it with sliders, I can do it with my iPad, with TouchOSC. You know, there's so much that I can give it, and I want to be able to give my music more rather than less.
You know, that's what I was this kind of relates back to what I was talking about with Slate Digital's Trigger. Is, for me, the one instrument that I feel the most separation from digitally is drums, whether I'm doing orchestral drums or whether I'm doing some sort of, it's even worse if you're trying to play some sort of rock trap kit, and you're using a keyboard. That is so away from the element. Or if you're using pads, it's complete, that the pads are a whole instrument unto itself. Sure, I see people that are pad players that are just amazing, but I don't play like that. And so I have out there literally a kit that I sit down and I play on with MIDI triggers and everything set. And MIDI triggering has never been a great thing. I don't think anybody would joke to say that it was good. But what Trigger has done is I can now create a rhythm that's going to be very difficult for me to try to create on a keyboard or using pads. And to tell you the truth, the velocity sensitivity of pads, in my estimation, it knocks me completely out of the mood, because it never responds the way I would want it to respond. And when I'm playing a pad and trying to do some little feathering or something, I get and it's so unpredictable, even though I feel like I'm hitting the same kind of area of velocity. But yet on a snare, I could pull that off no problem without a bunch of spikes flying all over the place. So I like to get on a kit to create the rhythm that I'm going to use in the song, and then use something like Stephen Slate's Trigger to go into a library and pull in the drum that I want. Like maybe I wanted that to be congos or something, or maybe I wanted it to be, something completely crazy, and I can just pull that in and use it that way on the transients to just have it drop in these samples. And that's really useful to me. Again, I want to be part of that instrument like you're talking about. So having the playability from the viola side of things is fantastic, because you're still going to MIDI, and you could go in later if you wanted to use some sort of library that has a richer sound. Although I got to tell you, I thought it sounded fine. I thought it, I think of those things in very big performances. I don't think of the individual instrument as this viola doesn't sound as good as that viola. I think, does this viola sound like a viola when it's surrounded by that whole orchestra and all the layering that's going on? And I think that people would be challenged to hear to listen to a whole piece that you did and go, oh, wait a minute, that viola doesn't sound quite right. I think that would be very difficult to pull out of there. So yeah, use it. I agree with you, and I do the same thing on drums. Use it, put it into MIDI, change it later. That's the whole idea. And now you've got a natural performance that you can put into your song without having to use a phrase library or having to relegate yourself to something that's not very performance friendly.
Yeah, definitely.
Matt BR asked, which CC do you use for expression?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I set up all my stuff. So I've got CC2 on breath, CC1 on bite. By default, EWI will do pitch bend information on the bite sensor as well, but I actually do that with my right thumb instead. What else? Yeah, that's about it. Oh, I've got a couple of other notes that I use for the side keys. So these actually do different notes instead of going up and down CCs. And I use that for key switching sometimes. But it's such a personal thing, this. And, it's nice to learn hardware, but I think one thing that I've learned with software is that whether it's a license to use the software or not, compared to back in the day, it's still a tool, and you learn it and you make it your own, and it becomes a very personal and intimate thing when you're doing it really awesomely.
Yeah. Yeah, and we live in a world where if you said, "Hey, Mom, I want to learn to play an instrument," she doesn't buy you a machine from Native Instruments. You know what I mean? You get a natural acoustic kind of instrument, whether that be a piano or a saxophone or a guitar or something like that. I'm not sure a day will ever come, do you think, where I'm sure there are people out there who say, I want to specifically learn this thing because I'm into that kind of music. But I still think the majority rules when it comes to learning a natural instrument, an actual acoustic instrument. Do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Also with young kids wanting to be, hey, I'm going to make a lot of noise. It's a whole lot easier to do that when you don't have to plug it in or run Windows or something.
Yeah, and of course, in the end, what you're learning is not only how to play an instrument, but you're learning the rules of music, and you're learning the language of music. And I'm not sure that I might just be some Luddite, but I'm not sure I would be able to pick that up if somebody handed me a machine or something. I mean, the information's there certainly, and you can, it would be a kind of a cool way to learn scales, right? Because you can load up scales on machine that have none of the wrong notes. You can say, I just want to be, and so that's kind of a neat thing if you've got a brain for memorizing that kind of thing. But there's something valuable to looking at a piano and going, here is, an A major scale, and memorizing what not to hit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, that's a tough conversation. Like, what kind of instruments do you learn from? Can you learn from modern electronic instruments?
Yeah. I wonder, is there anyone out there whose first instrument was the theremin?
Oh my God.
That would be crazy. Oh.
Though that lends itself to, violin, viola, and stuff like that, because learning the spacing, it's muscle memory about how far you need to go for that next note or for an octave up. Like when you're watching a violinist slide up an octave, there's no note, there's no dot on the side of his fretboard or her fretboard that's telling her where to stop. It's all muscle memory. And a theremin's that same thing.
It is really true. But then you also have the 30-minute warm up.
Ooh.
Yep.
The Star Trek theme was an accident. It was just somebody trying to warm up the theremin.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
You were one note off. It was perfect.
Almost. All right.
Well, let's call it a show.
Yeah, I think that was fun. Yeah.
Happy Black Friday. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy holidays. Oh, you know, one point of correction I need to do is I was watching last week's show, and I said DeSoto every time I meant to say DeCapo. So it's Sonokinetic DeCapo. Everybody was so nice. Nobody got on Twitter and said, Kyle, you're a moron. But the exit on the 101 in LA where I would get off to go to Neversoft was called DeSoto, and it's stuck in my brain. Anytime I have DE or DA in front of something, I just say Soto, DeSoto. It's DeCapo by Sonokinetic. Sorry, Sonokinetic. We love you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'll see you later.
Right. Bye.